RWBY Manga Chapter 10. Now this is the last chapter coming out before the most recent, or for the new, before the new volume comes out this Friday, or this Saturday I guess, so like tomorrow I guess by the time I upload this. And I like this one. It was pretty simple, but mostly I liked it because Roman was in it and we got to see something that was really cool. And they add a lot of stuff in this manga because I think it was for maybe the last chapter or the one before that. I thought, I didn't know at that time that this wasn't 100% canon. It's kind of like sort of canon, but not really. Like they won't officially say this isn't canon because they kind of gave the license to someone else. So it's like we don't want to just say it's not canon. So it's kind of just like it can be if it fits, but if it doesn't, it's not canon. So going through this chapter, by the time he gets to the end, it's like, okay, that's the second time they've added like a brand new Grimm to the universe of RWBY. And it's like, man, both of the ones that they added were really awesome because in the beginning, it was during Weiss's trailer, and they basically made it where the suit of armor that she's fighting was actually a type of Grimm that could possess armor, pretty much. It was almost like a spirit Grimm. And then in this, clearly it's like an octopus style or squid style Grimm, and I was like, that's really awesome too. It's simple, but considering how things are in this universe where they start off really small and they can grow to be something ginormous, just seeing that thing and thinking, what if there was one that was 100 years old? How big would that be? So that's what I was thinking when I saw it, and I was like, man, this thing is added two really awesome Grimm that I would love to see in the actual series. And it's like, man, I don't know if that's really awesome or really sad because they don't want to count this as 100% canon. So in that regard, it's like that kind of sucks, but even if it doesn't end up becoming a part of the main series, I'm still very excited to see where they go with this new type of Grimm. And it also seems to be some sort of mystery behind it where it's like a pseudo legend. It might end with with Roman and the White Fang actually destroying it, but it's this sort of crazy legend where it's like, I think I read a story about it once where you shouldn't let it out, or you shouldn't let it be released from hiding, or else something really bad is going to happen. So I am excited to see what they do with that side of the story. And the other half was alright. I mean, there wasn't much to it. It was almost just normal stuff. It was kind of just, there was like no significance to it to me. It was just like, they needed to kind of fill in the space. And that first shot of Jean, it's almost gross, like how much he's sweating and like how much he's out of breath. I was like, holy crap, like he looks like he is about to die, really. So I like just how crazy his face looked, but it was cool to see Team Juniper like that. It was just kind of them all together. I thought that was pretty cool. And I guess it was like mostly them on that half of the story. It was mostly them until it does end up, of course, cutting to Team RWBY and Good Witch, which I thought was pretty cool. We got to see her again. But it was really nothing. It was like a random mission. We might get to see something cool come from it in the next chapter. And the stories might end up merging, and that might be why we saw 2 in 1. Because normally, it's just, one story, and that's all there is to it. It's like, this is what's happening for this chapter, and that's it. So it seemed like they had 2 stories that were totally separated. But the whole point of the hideout is like, oh, it was hidden inside of a cliff and stuff, and so they're just out in some random field. We don't really know where it is. So they could easily have it where in the next chapter, the 2 storylines end up blending together, and the White Fang and Team Juniper and Team RWBY, of course, as well as Roman, all have to team up to fight not just the small version, but maybe it'll unleash the giant version as well. It'll be like, the Grimm version of a Kraken or something. So maybe they'll all have to team up, and then of course the 2 teams will have to beat Roman as well as the White Fang. So it didn't seem like there were too many of them, but even when there's a bunch, they always lose anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter if it's a ton of White Fang. They lost in the first season and it was only 2 people. It was just Blake and Sun versus like 10 people or something, and then there's always more heroes, that come in a little bit later when there end up being more villains. So it never really matters how many White Fang show up. They always end up losing. So I guess the numbers don't really make a difference because they haven't, so far. But I am excited for what this scene is set up. I do hope, especially with it being, these chapters being so incredibly small, which is always the worst thing about it because it's only a month. And typically when you read, which obviously if you're watching this, odds are you already know this, but for those of you who might not, typically when you read monthly manga, they're much longer than weekly manga. Like weekly manga come out like RWBY does, where it's 15 pages. A monthly thing comes out and it's like 40 pages long or something. It's like you sit there and you read for a good chunk of time, and then this comes out and it's just like you're done, and you have to wait like another 30 days. Fortunately, though, of course, we've had RWBY Chibi over the summer, and now we have actual Volume 4 coming out. World of Remnant has already started, so I'm excited to really check that episode out and do my review on that before the official season starts. But it was a fine chapter. Like I said, it was kind of like it's almost I guess it would technically get an F because it's like 50% of it was cool, the other 50 was just like they're just doing the mission, and it's not like it was really funny or anything. Like if it led to some comedic lines, that would be cool. But I guess the only comedic line was supposed to be Sean being like, it's definitely not to, or being like, oh, it's to impress a white-haired princess and stuff. There wasn't much to it. It was like him being tired didn't seem funny to me, and maybe it's just especially me just seeing it for like 2 panels, and then Peter helps him up. There's not much to that. Like if I was actually watching it and it cut to them and he's breathing super hard and stuff and falling over because he's so tired, it might translate a little better. But to see that where it cuts from something that, even though they weren't doing anything but talking, it was just Roman and this White Fang dude. It was like they aren't doing anything, but I'm already interested because it involves Roman. Like this is the first like full Roman chapter, so that's pretty cool to me. And technically, it was only the first Roman half chapter, so it's kind of like, all right, so it is like a 50-50 sort of thing. But I do hope that the reason they had the story with Roman and the White Fang, as well as the 2 teams together, is because even though they're going on a typical mission, they'll end up coming across Roman and the White Fang, as well as this Grimm, or at least the Grimm. Maybe Roman and his crew will be able to escape it and be like, well, this hideout's a bust, just leave it and let whoever else, kind of come along and deal with it, since they want to, destroy everything anyway. It's like, screw it, we're out of here, let's not risk our lives, just let it go. And then the teams come across it, that would be fine. So as long as it has some sort of crossover, which I feel it will, because otherwise it is literally pointless to have shown, the 2 teams on a random mission outside of seeing Team Juniper have like that cool full shot where it's like the whole team. That was like my favorite part of the whole thing, really, was because I got to see that shot. Well, I shouldn't say favorite. It's second favorite part. Favorite part is definitely the Brendan Grimm. But, that was a cool shot, but hopefully it actually means something in the next chapter. We do have a blending of these 2 seemingly distant stories, and it actually becomes one where something happens. Like, they have to fight something. Either it's going to be the White Fang that are with Roman himself, or it's going to be this new type of Grimm. But the teams, if not Team RWBY, because they made a point of being like, oh, they left, it was like, 20 minutes earlier, 30 minutes before. So it might just be Team Juniper, which would be even cooler because, of course, we don't see them fight, too often. We haven't seen it at all in manga form. But they had that one scene, I think, early on with, there may have been something with Jean where he fought earlier, but I know Cardin, he was fighting against RWBY, so that's why I was thinking it was Jean. But maybe we haven't seen them fight at all. I feel like there's been something in there where somebody threw a punch, had to. But hopefully we, that'll be the focus. It'll just be Team Juniper. We get to see them fight. Jean will freak out. The rest of the team will do something really sweet, and they defeat a new type of Grimm. So I'm hoping that that's what happens. But for now, this was definitely a 50-50 sort of thing. It was great to see Roman, especially considering his current role in the main series. It's definitely great to see, to really see Roman. But I'm hoping that it's either just more Roman going up against this new type of Grimm, or these 2 stories come together. Because I don't want it to be half and half, where it's like one half is awesome because I love to see Roman and this whole new type of element to the universe, and then the other half is just Juniper going on a random mission where they don't even fight or something like that. So I'm hoping it definitely picks up, and that's always the worst thing, is like they only have 15 pages, and it feels like wasted chapters sometimes when they do stuff like this, where it's like, this is once a month, and they make stories where it's just talking and like one cool little element, but nothing else really seems to make any sort of impact on me whatsoever. It's like there's Roman and this new type of Grimm. The other half of this chapter was like totally pointless to me, but like I said, I'm guessing that it will blend together. It'll actually make sense why these 2 seemingly separated stories were just put into this new chapter. And then, next month we'll actually get a cool blended chapter where it actually makes sense, why they were in these different locations that turn out to be like the same location or some, very close to it. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about this chapter, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. And, of course, with Volume 4 coming out, I would love to know what elements from the manga you guys would like to actually see translated into Volume 4. There are only like 2 things that I think could even be added to the series from the manga, and that's the 2 type of Grimm. But if there's something in there that you guys can think of that was added, maybe like certain little conversations or something like that that kind of stood out to you that you would love to see referenced, or even if they reference the manga in general, if that's what you guys just want to see for Volume 4, then I definitely want to know that as well. For me, of course, like I said, it's the 2 Grimm. It's new types of Grimm. We already have the one, if you saw the footage for the Volume 4, then you know that there's something pretty epic coming. I won't spoil it if you just completely strayed away from it. But there's already a new type of Grimm in that, which I thought was pretty cool. So I would still love to see some more additions, and I'm sure we will over time, but I would love it if they took the ones from the manga and implanted them into the actual series. But like I said, want to know what you guys thought about this chapter, what you guys would like to see in Volume 4 that's either been introduced in the manga, or if you want to hear just a reference to it, want to know that as well. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.